Hello folks, we are back at the Nürburgring, and as the thumbnail suggests, we have finally managed to get a full race in an online lobby without a bunch of hoodlums smashing us off the track in the first two turns. So we're in the rolling start here, and we're about to head into the chaos of turn one. Off we go. That Porsche behind me got a really good getaway. I was a little slow at the lights. We qualified fourth, I think it was. So again, a reasonable qualifying. I think a qualifying lap of an 8:22. And actually was on a quicker lap, and we just survived. Some respectful stuff from everyone behind. This was a good sign. If you get through turn one with people being respectful of space and giving you room, I think you can then safely say that you're in with a decent group of people. Usually the fate is sealed in the first two turns. So yeah, qualifying was interesting. It was a half an hour qualifying, so I'd done a few practice laps. I always try and do that now. Whenever I load the game up, the first thing I do is I put on ACC and just do some practice laps around the Nürburgring, 2 or 3. It gets my eye in from a driving perspective, and it just keeps my progression in terms of learning the circuit. As you can see, I'm already fighting with this Porsche. We had a nice move down into the hairpin, a bit of a lunge, but he gave us room. He knew we were coming, and I've just coming up to the turns there, you get a little bit defensive, you move left. Same thing coming up here. I can see him behind me, so you just got one eye on that. But yeah, back to practice. I did a few laps. I tried a few different cars actually. There's a new Mustang been released. It is it's quite different, quite tail happy. So I think anyone who gets quick in the Mustang will deserve some praise. So I tried the Mustang, tried the McLaren. I could go back to the McLaren. I started out my ACC career using a McLaren, so I might go back to that in the future. So we did a few practice laps like that, and then I had a look at what the online situation is. And it's the usual array of people doing Monza. That's just the dominant circuit on the server browser. I'm not sure what it is about Monza that everyone likes, but it is a very, very popular online choice. But we found a nice server that had a full lobby, was just about to start its qualifying. So I jumped in. Qualifying was half an hour, so get the first lap in, just an 8:26, something like that, something quite slow, but you're just getting a lap on the board for your delta. Lap 2 was 8:22, so a good chunk off. And then lap 3, I was on for something. I think I had 8:19, 8:18 on the delta, and I knew I'd had parts of the circuit coming up that I had made some mistakes on my qualifying lap. So I'm thinking there's probably a 17 in there. And in my haste to get my 8:17, I smashed it straight in the barriers. So lesson to yourself: don't get overly excited, don't watch the delta, just bloody concentrate on what you're doing. But me being me, I tend to obsess too much about the delta, and around this circuit you take your eye off the ball for 1 minute, and pain, instant pain. So yeah, we qualified fourth, and first third of the first lap here, you can see it's gone all right. I've actually started. I'm sort of consistent. The story from qualifying was that the 3 guys ahead of me just now, particularly the leader, they were just faster. I mean, they were the qualifying pole was an 8:16, and the other 2 guys were in the teens as well, 8:19s. So they were quicker than me, but on race pace, as you can see, I'm holding my own. They do look a bit feisty up there, so I'm thinking if I can hold in and I can sort of keep up with them, there might be a mistake. It's the Nürburgring after all, never ever know. And also I've managed to gap a little bit to the Porsche behind, so I'm thinking, you know what, I've got good pace, I'm solid. But I could see in various sections, even on that little screen, the rear view camera that you have, I could see the Porsche was quicker through certain aspects of it. And as you'll see there, he begins to close the gap. And instead of me trying to like sort of, as I explained in the previous Kyle Army video, you know, you start throwing feints, you start throwing dummies, you start trying to make people make mistakes, he started doing it to me. So it was my turn to be on the defensive. And around this circuit, again, this is just a learning exercise. You're only going to get better at that the more you do it. So this has been a good experience for me, you know, to actually get a lobby with people who are willing to race properly. And it's just I wish on console there was more opportunities for races like this. You know, it is frustrating. There are races on PC. There is a group of individuals who run an organization or a community called LFM, and it's called Low Fuel Motorsport, and they run a dedicated leagues for people who want to register. There's a rookie division, there's professional division, I'm not sure if there's one in between, but yeah, these are sort of like, they're stewarded and, you know, observed by people. So, you know, people race quite respectfully. I believe in them. And on console, you just don't have anything like that. We are basically left with, there just isn't I just don't think there's a player base for one. But we are just left with, you know, the sort of slim pickings of Monza servers, and occasionally you get nice ones like this. But as you can see, the Porsche behind me through this section, now this is the section that I've been talking about before that I still need to learn to get a bit quicker at. I am improving, but as you can see, that Porsche is now closing right up on me. And, you know, one of the areas I saw him close up a lot was the carousel. So clearly, I need to learn to be quicker through the carousel. He closed a lot on me through the carousel. So that was one thing actually, as we progress through this video, I'll talk about, is when I'm following people, is to learn. It helps you learn where you're slow, and that's, you know, a really useful tool. But, you know, we're doing all right. We've hung on in. This is the first lap. We're heading towards the end of it, and I'm still in 4th place. So, you know, I was pretty pleased at this point. And, you know, the sort of that nervousness you get from the first lap when you think things are going to go wrong. I make a little mistake there, and again, look, he was able to exit that mini carousel just quicker than me, and now I'm facing the prospect of him sort of dragging me all the way down the you know, big straight. So this was first lap. This is a real like win, because at this point you know you're dealing with people who are going to race properly, and you can relax. That first lap nerves kind of disappeared, and then you can start thinking of how you're gonna race. So yeah, thinking one thing I've noted straight away down the back straight here is the fact that he's not closing up into me, even not too much, even though he's got the slipstream, which probably tells me he is running more rear wing than I am, which might explain why he has greater pace through that sort of middle section of the track, which is quite high speed, a lot of turns. You know, I noticed he was closing up on me in a few. I'm running a bit of a lower rear wing to try and get a bit more pace down the straights, because the Ferrari is not known for being particularly quick down the straights. And it's maybe something I need to, you know, do some experimenting with, that is actually go back to where I was originally on the setup, and just put a bit more wing on and just see. So we're now, you're going to see, this is the defensive lap. I've got this guy all over the back of me, so, you know, the other two in front, you'll see, look, they've really gapped me now. So barring a mistake, 4th is the best I'm going to do. So, you know, it's good in a way. I didn't have to focus on fighting them and defending from him, which makes things a lot harder. And, you know, the guy behind me had already proven to be someone who was going to be respectful. I was going to race properly and wasn't just going to throw the car in a silly place. And if I do start making mistakes, as I do make some, you know, he's backing off and he's not, making the situation worse. And that is what you're looking for. And if you can see in the rear view camera, he's also been joined now, because I am possibly holding him up slightly. He's been joined by a Honda NSX, a white one. So at this point, you can see I've got a little gap to him, and I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe him and the NSX will fight. So I start really pushing. I'm having to really start pushing and see if I can pull a little gap while those two are fighting. And that is the right thing to do, but you also need the talent levels to do it. And as you will see coming up, at some point in this lap, my talent levels do run out occasionally. So yeah, I was really pushing at this point. And to be fair, the lap times I was putting in for race pace, for me, low 8-minute 20s on race pace. I was thinking, with heavy fuel in the car, I was thinking that was not bad. The other thing I don't know if you've picked up on the screen is quite often you'll see little kick-ups of dust where the car in front is going off the track a little bit. And on this circuit, see, there's one just there, you just missed it on the right hand side. And on this circuit, that can sometimes be a really good indicator that someone has had a incident or a spin further ahead, and you've just got to be on the lookout for that, and that can be like an early warning for you. So that's something I'm using as a sort of a visual cue that something might have gone wrong. But as you can see there, I had a gap, and then coming around that corner, you see there's another puff of smoke there. So you're just always looking what's ahead as well as what's behind. But you'll see through that one corner, look at the Porsche, he is closed right up on me. However, you'll notice the NSX has dropped away from him. So clearly that NSX had pace, but has made a mistake somewhere, and is now fallen back a little bit and will come on again. But you can see the Porsche there, and the exit of those corners, he gets a really good exit, and he's alongside me. But look, he doesn't lunge. He knows there's no room to do that in this part of the track. Big bit of dust there, and there you are. That's the Ferrari that was in P3 round in the gravel. So currently we are P3. So I'm pushing here, really pushing, knowing that the NSX has dropped back, that Porsche is right on my tail, and we're just really having to get the hammer down. But here comes the first mistake. Just ran wide, and I've got damage now. I've got rear wing damage, which around this circuit, bit of a problem. So I just let him go. I don't even fight him, because there's no point. With that damage, he's going to be quicker than me, and all that's going to happen is it's going to harm both our races. But I've now got to deal with the NSX. So what happened on that corner was, it's a very fast turn, but half of the corner is cambered in, and the other half is like flat. So, I just missed the inward camber. I let this guy go as well. I just eased off the throttle and let him pass. Again, he's clearly much quicker than me. I've now got, rear downforce issues. So there's no point fighting too hard. You're going to either end up in an accident or you're going to spoil your own race. So I just let him go. And, I'm in 5th place. So I'm thinking, top 5 finish, that's fine. And, on this circuit, as you've seen that Ferrari that was in 3rd place, he's clearly fast. His qualifying lap was in the teens. But, mistakes happen. Mistakes happen very quickly. And you see there, the lack of rear downforce. I nearly lost the rear of the car. So, I've got enough to concentrate on in terms of getting this car now to the finish. This was a 22-minute race, so it's 3 laps. So this is midway through the 2nd lap, so I have a lap and a half of the Nürburgring with rear damage to survive. And you can see here, look, that NSX around the carousel, just quicker than me. So that is a note I have to have of getting quicker around that particular part of the track. But yeah, the incident, I just didn't catch the sort of like inner camber there, and that it just pushed me onto that sort of top part of it, and I was always going to run wide. unless I hit the brakes, and you know, you're gonna risk the guy hitting you from behind at that point, or you're gonna risk spinning. But you know, there's another kick up of dust and another one. So you know, my point here now was stay somewhere nearby, and you never know if there will be an incident. I'm in 5th place, so it's not bad. I've got a bit of damage, but we're still keeping reasonable pace. I think my delta was showing 8:24, something like that, which for me, with some damage, is really not too bad. And I thought to myself, well, I could see on my timing deltas on the screen that the car behind was closing, but I thought I've got enough to, if I can keep this pace up, I've got enough of a gap, and it was kind of pressure off from that point of view. So it was really, you know, about trying to, my thought process was bringing the car home, and staying in contention should anything go, you know, belly up front, because that NSX then starts to catch the Porsche. He's seriously quick. I mean, he gapped me and then he caught up with that Porsche, and as you can see, that Porsche was a bit quicker than me. So, you know, that NSX had some real pace. I don't know what happened to him in qualifying, whether he probably didn't have a valid lap. Really struggling on that carousel there on the exit. I just couldn't get it turned in. You know, getting a bit of understeer from the car, a bit of, you know, and again, just running wide with understeer. I think the damage just causing issues in certain corners. You know, some of the corners with sort of tricky cambers and, you know, that are a bit faster, you know, it's causing me a little bit of issues. You know, so I was fully concentrated at this point, just, you know, getting into the end. But I can see just a speck up in the distance, the Porsche and the NSX are fighting. And, you know, I actually think, looking at the colours of the dots in the distance, I think the NSX actually overtakes him here on that straight. You probably can't see it on screen, but I could see it on my TV, that the NSX had got him. So, you know, he had some serious pace. So we're never gonna match that, particularly not with damage and not at my current ability level. I will, my next ventures on this circuit, I'm gonna keep this setup I've got largely the same, but just tweak the wing and the ride height to see if I can do anything about it. You know, and improve that middle sector. And you know, I might be off on ultimate pace in terms of esports, but clearly I'm so far off that pace anyway that it's probably the better decision to improve generally with a slightly more stable rear of the car for that middle section, and I'll probably find that overall I'm a bit faster. And if I can consistently be in the teens, like 8:18, 8:17, 8:19, in that little window, I think you're going to do better in the races, and you're going to just have a more consistent time than you will, you know, doing it, you know, on the sort of technically faster but more slippery and tricky setup that I've got on the car. So yeah, that was, you know, at this point I'm under no pressure at this point, so I am trying to sort of keep my pace. I'm trying to not be me and push too hard. But again, as I've said and repeated myself, you are always aware on this circuit that there could be a mistake in someone. So you don't want to back off, because you might get an opportunity to steal a place. So you want to try and be consistent. And if you back off too much, cars behind will catch you. So, you know, it was about smoothness and, you know, really staying in sort of a rhythm. You know, at this point, I have to say, this was 1:45 in the morning I was doing this. I'd now been driving for the practice laps and half an hour quali and the race, so again, over an hour of Nürburgring driving, and I was getting a bit tired, and my focus, I was really just trying to be smooth and in my rhythm and not make mistakes. This is the deepest or closest to the finish line that I have been. I've been on lap 3 out of 4 before in a half an hour race, but you know, I still had a lap to go, whereas this is the final lap. So I knew, get through this lap and I'm home and hosed, and I was, you know, in 5th place. I thought, you know what, that's really not bad. I'm thinking, I also wanted to try and remember the name of the server I was on, but actually it was just a standard ACC server, but it just happened to be populated by people who weren't hell-bent on, crashing sort of into you in the first corner. So that was, I could see some dust being kicked up again, so I'm thinking, oh, maybe there's a chance. Just focus, keep the pace, and see where we can end up. There's not a huge amount to talk about in this section of the race because not much is happening. I'm just trying to be smooth, trying not to make mistakes. There's certain parts of the circuit, like this part we're on just now, it's very easy to just go too quickly, and you can very quickly make a mistake, and the barriers are so close that that'd be the end of your race, and it'd be really frustrating this close to the end if you just are pushing and end up making a mistake, and that's the frustration of it. And that's why when you watch particularly the LFM Pro Series, where a lot of the esports guys compete on a sort of daily basis, that's where they sort of do their sort of race training effectively, because although it's just an online lobby, a lot of the esports guys all compete in it, so the standard is incredibly high on LFM Pro. It's effectively an esports tournament, but just done on sort of a day-to-day basis. So when you watch those guys, they race effectively flat out from start to finish, and the amount of mistakes they make is tiny amount. You probably less than 3 or 4 small mistakes in a whole 45-minute or an hour race. Really, really impressive. And I know I've said that a lot in the past, but until you've tried this, until you've tried to race on this circuit, until you've tried to go full tilt on this circuit for like lap after lap without making errors, and look at that, Honda NSX sideways, we pinch 4th place. How about it? That's what I'm talking about. You've got to stay in it. That guy, clearly a very fast driver, clearly very good around the Nürburgring, and he makes a mistake. It just takes 1 second, and that ties in with what I was saying about the LFM Pro guys. They don't make these mistakes. They don't go round like that. They are unbelievably consistent. And when you see that footage of like Max Verstappen competing in the 24 hours of Nürburgring on iRacing, and you see him doing the night racing stint for an hour and 20 minutes straight on a Grand Prix weekend, you think to yourself, like, how does he do it? Like, it just is extraordinary. And I have nothing but admiration for anyone who's capable of doing it. And I'm trying hard, I'm practicing hard, but there is a realization that I don't have the time to get to that level. But if I can be more consistent, then I think I'd take that. Now, the eagle-eyed of you may have noticed there is another car, and it's not the NSX. It is the fifth place car, previously 6th, but NSX had the spin. He's closing in on behind me. So again, he's caught my attention, and naturally now I'm getting quite nervy. I know I've got rear damage. Here's a guy who's quite obviously closing in on me quite quickly, and I've got less than half a lap to go, but I'm in the tricky section that needs good rear wing, good rear downforce, and that's the part that I'm lacking. So the pressure was on now to really try and not make a mistake, and as you will see, I just go too quickly over the jump. Now, I will say normally that is the entry speed I take. I think I was a little fast. I think I was pushing a little hard, but I don't think I was pushing too hard, or beyond the limit of the car, with the exception of the damage I was taking. I didn't have the sort of turn in, that sharpness of turn in, and I just went off the track. And what that has done is it has brought that car right up behind me, and now I'm sort of in a bit of a fluster. I've got a bit flustered here, and I can see him. Look at him, he's right behind me. He even tries now to flash me, and he's got his lights flashing because he's like, there he is right there, and you might see, can we see in the route thing there? No, I can see, I think it's either another Ferrari or McLaren, so, you know, straight line wise, maybe he's not going to catch me, but there he goes, he tries to flash, you know, to just hoodwink me into thinking I should let him by. But no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stick at it. I've got this straight and the final bit to go. But this is an online lobby. This final corner, you can see this guy could lunge me at any point, and if he makes a dive in this final corner, there are barriers right next to you. There is no room for error. So I can't take it easy here. I have to go into this corner as quickly as I always would. And here I come now, and I'm just trying to park it right in the way. But if you make a mistake here, you know, you're done. You know, you're either crashing into the barrier or the guy gets you. But that doesn't happen. We finally did it. We have completed a race. A few incidents, a few mistakes, but we finished this race in 4th place, and, you know, happy days. So there we are. I shall try and find another online lobby around the Nürburgring at some point and see if we can place a little higher than 4th, and also see if I can try and get a qualifying lap in for you as well.